Okay, good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of August 20th, 2020. My name is Gary Hirsch and I am the chairperson of the commission. The Planning Commission is a citizen body appointed by City Council. The commission is empowered to make final decisions on certain matters, with those being appealable to the City Council. On other matters, the commission acts in an advisory role to the council, with the council making the final decision. You will have an opportunity to address the commission during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Your testimony is very much appreciated and encouraged. The commission acts from a written agenda. You will need to fill out a yellow speaker card and give it to city staff if you wish to speak on an item. Copies of the agenda and the speaker cards are located on the table just inside the entry here to the Civic Center. At this time, I'll ask you to silence your phones, pagers, any other electronic devices. Thank you. I'd also like to make everyone aware that this meeting is being televised live on the City of Glendale's Facebook and YouTube pages, as well as Glendale's own Channel 11. During normal times, the Planning Commission usually meets in City Council chambers at City Hall, where we're all in one room. Unfortunately, due to the public health pandemic, that we've moved our meeting to the Glendale Civic Center. Another change is that the commission is in one ballroom while the public is in the next door room on the other side of this wall. So we can't follow so we're able to follow the CDC guidelines of 6-foot social distancing. For those members of the public in the ballroom next door, there is a video screen and speakers set up so you can see and hear us live. I'd also like you to know there's a camera in the middle of the public's room so that we can see all of you on a big screen in our room. If you've submitted a speaker card and indicated you wish to speak on an agenda item, the chair will allow you the time to make your way into this room and to the podium so you can speak in person. This evening, the chair will be allowing 5 minutes for each speaker, and we really do appreciate your understanding and patience. There are 7 members appointed to the Planning Commission. At this time, I'll ask each of the commissioners to introduce themselves and state the district they are representing, starting on my far right.
Good evening. I'm Ed Nyberg, representing the Cholla District.
And I represent Cactus.
This is Al Lennox, Vice Chair, representing the Beryl District.
Rick Harper, representing the Saguaro District.
Warren Wilfong, Ocotillo District.
Martin Nowakowski, Yucca District.
And I am Gary Hirsch, Chairman of the Commission, a mayoral appointee, resident of the Cactus District. The Planning Commission receives staff assistance and guidance from the Planning Division and the City Attorney's Office. Ms. Collins, would you please introduce the city staff who are present here this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my right is James Gruber. He's our Senior Deputy City Attorney in our City Attorney's Office. To my left is Tina Labelli, a planner on our staff who will be making presentations this evening. And to her left is Diana Figueroa, our management assistant. And my name is Lisa Collins. I am the planning administrator and interim development services director. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Because these items were not on tonight's agenda, the commission cannot take action this evening. However, the item could be added to a future agenda. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we'll now move on to approval of the minutes. We have minutes for the Planning Commission meeting of August 6, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for presumably approval. Commissioner Harper?
Yes.
Very good. approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of August 6, 2020. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Very good. The minutes are approved. Ms. Collins, do we have any withdrawals or continuances this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have one continuance, zoning text amendment ZTA 20-01 regarding group homes, and that is being continued to the September 3rd, 2020 Planning Commission hearing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gruber, I presume we do not need a motion to move that. Okay. We'll now move on to our public hearing items. The purpose of a public hearing is to provide interested parties an opportunity to present testimony for the Commission's consideration. The Commission will follow the same procedure for each item. The Chair will call the application number and the name of the applicant. Staff will present their report and answer questions from the Commission. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation and answer questions from the Commission. Other persons who wish to testify will be asked to do so and answer questions from the Commission. The applicant will have an opportunity for closing comments. Staff will be asked for any final comments on the application and procedural guidance. The Chair will then close the public hearing and ask for a motion prior to discussion. You will need to state your name and address for the record if you wish to speak on an item. Please be brief, to the point, avoid repetition. The Chair does reserve the right to limit the length of your testimony, and all exhibits shown to the Commission become part of the permanent record and must be submitted for the file. If we have any large groups, we recommend and suggest that you designate a spokesperson, and applause or other disruptions which would delay our hearing will not be tolerated. This evening, we have 4 public hearing items, and the first and next on our agenda is CUP 20-08, Pull and Save Conditional Use Permit. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Christina Lavelle, and I am a Planning Project Manager with the City of Glendale Development Services Department. Tonight, I will be presenting Pull and Save Conditional Use Permit, CUP 20-08. This request is from Lexi Welcott of the Planning Group, and she represents Northern Property LLC. This request is approval for a conditional use permit to allow an automobile wrecking, salvage, and scrap metal facility located at 6849 West Friar Drive, which supports heavy industrial uses as identified by the Glendale zoning ordinance. This is the subject property in relation to City Hall. The site has been designated light industrial by the Glendale General Plan. This is a property location. This property is located at the southeast corner of Northern and 68th Avenue. The subject property is highlighted in gold. The property to the north is owned by the same owner, and it received conditional use approval in CUP 12-08 in 2012. This is an aerial photograph so that you can see the property in relation to the other adjacent industrial and commercial uses. This is a locator map. This gives kind of a little bit more of a bird's eye view of the property. This is a street view off of Friar. There are 2 access points to the property. This is the submitted and approved site plan that was a preliminary site plan that shows the access locations and the proposed use upon the property. The applicant provided a citizen participation plan and notified adjacent property owners. And the public hearing was advertised, posted, and the site was posted, and the hearing notices were mailed. The findings are that the proposal is consistent with the development objectives of the general plan. The proposed uses and site development are compatible with adjacent uses. The recommendation from staff is approval of CUP 20-08, subject to, number 1, development shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan dated July 21st, 2020, and the project narrative dated August 12th, 2020. Number 2, the hours of operation shall be 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., 7 days a week. Number 3, the project shall be subject to design review. And number 4 is actually a courtesy. This is actually a code requirement, and it will, landscaping will be reviewed under design review. That concludes my presentations. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lavelle. Commissioners, do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Wilfong, I know you have a question burning. Okay. Any questions? Very good. Thank you. Would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come forward and make your presentation?
Good evening, Chairman Hirsch and members of the Commission. My name is Lexi Wellett, and I am a project manager with the Planning Center, which is located at 2 East Congress in downtown Tucson, Arizona, 85701. I'm also joined this evening by the property owner, Mike Pearson, as well as the CFO of Pull and Save, and they'll be here to answer any questions should you guys have them. Ms. Lavelle did a wonderful job, and it's truly been a pleasure working with her through this case, so thank you for your hard work. But she did a great job presenting our case, so I'm going to do my best to keep my remarks brief here for you all. As Ms. Lavelle mentioned, this request is for a conditional use permit on a 9-acre portion of a 19-acre portion of, a 9-acre portion of a 19-acre property owned by Northern LLC. Currently, Pull and Save operates on the northern 10 acres of the site, and this request is to allow for an expansion of the automotive salvage yard to the south on the other 9 acres of the site. Through this process, we notified about 33 property owners within 300 feet of the site. 2 folks reached back out to me, and I spoke in great detail with them. And the discussions largely revolved around land use compatibility, and one gentleman felt that industrial uses don't belong in the city of Glendale proper, but as we all know, that's a critical component to a city's fabric. And so, as Ms. Lavelle mentioned, this area is highly compatible for the use, as it's zoned industrial, as are the surrounding properties. And then the other concern that was brought forth was from the gentleman that lives or owns a business across the way from us, and he just expressed some general concerns with traffic on Friar Drive, and largely currently the traffic concern is that we bring traffic out of one of our access ways, but through this process we'll open up the driveways. As Ms. Lavelle mentioned, there'll be 2 accesses into the site there, and those will be they will allow the traffic to internalize on the site, removing some of the traffic congestion concerns that Mr. Henry had in our correspondence. So that being said, I know the property owners are really excited to move through the next phase of this process and the design review to ensure that landscaping is addressed accordingly. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you guys may have.
Thank you, Ms. Walcott. Commissioners, any questions? Okay, thank you very much. The chair will now open the public hearing for CUP 20-08, Pull and Save Conditional Use Permit. 2 speaker cards. I have 3 speaker cards. We'll start here with the most recent, Stella Grazo. Good evening, Ms. Grazo. You have 5 minutes, ma'am, if you'll state your name for the record. I'm going to ask you to lean into the mic a little bit.
Oh, it wasn't.
There we go. Thank you.
You don't want me to lean in now. 68th Avenue and Friar, that's right down the road. And do we need an automobile wrecking and salvage yard just down the road from here? That does nothing to enhance Glendale. It goes back to when you look around Glendale, again, people roll their eyes when they say, oh, you live in Glendale? You know, pretty sad. It looks like a dump. It's getting to look more and more like a dump. So I guess if you want a salvage yard down the street, I don't know. Do we even have opinions at these meetings? I get flustered because there's nothing being done to enhance the city of Glendale. You're just putting more developments, more industrial sites, more traffic, and this is 7 days a week, 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm glad I don't live right in that area to have this going on 7 days a week, but you're destroying Glendale with everything that's coming our way. And I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Grazo? Very well. I have Michael Pearson. Mr. Pearson, if you'd like to speak. And need your name and address for the record, sir.
Yes, good evening, Commission and Council. My name is Michael Pearson. Address is 2021 West Buckeye Road in Phoenix, Arizona. That is our corporate address. I am one of the property owners for Northern Property and also owner of Pull and Save operation, and have a fond love for Glendale. I grew up in Glendale. I attended Horizon Elementary and I graduated from Apollo High School. So it's back in 2012, my father and I were able to acquire this property in Glendale and went through the conditional use process for the front half of the property and developed a brand new facility there that we've received much accolades and praise from the community. I appreciate the concern of the former speaker, and it's a common misconception, in my opinion, of our industry. In general, there is some misconception about automotive recycling, and there are some bad actors. However, we are not one of them, and invite anyone of the council to visit any of our operations at any time. I assume most all of us, if not all of us, drove here in an automobile, and at some point in the history of that automobile, it needs to be recycled in a proper way, and that's what our facility and companies do. We provide environmentally responsible way to recycle and reuse many of the auto parts that hence provide a great service to the community and to those that need to repair their automobiles in a cost-effective way and recycle the precious materials in a proper and environmentally safe way. So we have been operating on that location for over 6 years and have really enjoyed the opportunity to operate in Glendale and have received a great response, hence why we need to expand the operation on the property. On top of that, we have lost our tenant, which currently is on the rest of the property. They're vacating, and so we need to use the rest of the property in that manner as well. That's my only comment. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Crow.
Yes, the time that you've been in the location on the other half of the property, how many complaints have you gotten from your neighbors?
To my knowledge, none.
Okay, and the functionality of the property that they're going to vacate, I've seen a lot of heavy trucks and other things in there. What exactly goes on there?
So the current property that's up for CUP on Friar our tenant is a company called United Construction Group. And they have, I believe, over 150 employees and use Friar heavily. Our use of Friar is going to be actually minimized. All of our traffic comes off of Northern. So we'll have a few trucks in and out off Friar each day, but it's going to be far less than the current use, if that was your question.
Well, that was my next question. But getting back to the other question, I guess kind of what I'm getting at is when I went by there to look at it, it looked like there was a lot of heavy equipment in there and, I mean, not so far stretched from I realize you're going to have cars in rows and, you know, I understand that. But it's not like you're taking a vacant lot and turning it into a recycling facility. I mean, what's there is pretty much heavy industrial now.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not going to change. There's not going to be any additional equipment added from what's already there as well.
Thank you.
Commissioners. Commissioner Harper.
Yes. Do you do any crushing or demount of vehicles there on site?
We do
Anything that would cause extra noise?
Not that would cause any extra noise than what's already occurred on the property to date.
Okay.
But yes, to answer your question, we do crush vehicles and we have crushed vehicles there and have received no complaints from neighbors.
But you do it during the day?
Yeah, and our
normal
actual
business
hours of operation are 7:30 to 5:30 for customers. In the summer months, as you can imagine, some of our employees show up earlier to beat the heat.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. What are you going to do to keep the dust down in that area? Because I've been in those pool areas, and it's usually pretty dirty, you know, with vehicles driving back and forth with dust in the air. How are you handling that?
That's a great question. One of the great things about this 19 acres, when we purchased the property, the entire 19 acres is paved with asphalt, so we have no dust issues at this location.
Okay, the other one is you're backing up Northern Avenue, correctly? Is that correct?
Northern is our frontage, actually. We have a 7,000 square foot retail building on Northern Avenue.
Okay, is that going to be re-landscaped for this, or is it existing landscaping now?
It's existing.
Okay. One more question. What kind of wall do you have to kind of like screening? What kind of screening do you have for off of Northern?
Northern has a block wall with wrought iron currently. And that was approved on the original CUP.
Any additional questions, commissioners? Okay, Mr. Pearson, to the best of your knowledge, has this operation ever been cited by code compliance for a failure to maintain your landscape?
No.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to add?
No, appreciate your support and opportunity to conduct business in Glendale.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Russell Sewell, do I have that correct? Nothing to add. Okay, then I'll wave you off then. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on CUP 20-08? Hearing and seeing none, the chair will now close the public hearing on CUP 20-08. Staff, do you have any final remarks or guidance for the commission? Okay, Mr. Gruber? All right. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept or we pass CUP 20-08 with the listed stipulations.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Support.
We have a motion and a second for approval of CUP 20-08 with the 4 published staff stipulations. The chair will now conduct a roll call vote beginning on my far right. Commissioner Nyberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Crow,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lennox,
Aye.
Commissioner Harper,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilfong,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The motion has passed. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps in the process?
Chair and members of the commission, your action tonight with respect to case number CUP 20-08 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the second public hearing item for this evening, CUP 20-11 Northern Parkway Storage Conditional Use Permit. Ms. Lavelle, you're presenting.
Yes, thank you,
The
Chairman.
floor is yours. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. Again, my name is Christina Lavelle. I'm a planning project manager with the City of Glendale Development Services Department. Tonight I will be presenting Northern Parkway CUP 20-11. The request is by John Kubicek, representing Kim Hunt, for a conditional use permit to allow commercial retail sales and servicing of utility trailers in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District, as identified by Glendale zoning ordinance. This is the subject property in relation to City Hall. This site is designated Business Park by the Glendale General Plan. The site has actually received design review approval for the self-storage with the retail and the utility component on June 11th, 2020, and the case number is DR 1948. This is an aerial photograph showing that this property is located in the southeast corner of Northern Avenue and Glen Harbor Boulevard. This is a locator map. This property is currently vacant, pending approval. This is a street view looking onto the property. This is the approved design review site plan. This is just some examples of some of the elevations of the self-storage units and the business office where they will be conducting this business. Public involvement. The applicant was required to go through the citizen participation plan process. They notified the adjacent property owners through a neighborhood letter. There was a total of 44 mailings. The Planning Commission public hearing was advertised and the site was posted. The site was the project was to go forward at a previous meeting, but was commuted to today, so it was reposted on August 6th. And the final report, no comments have been received. The findings are that the proposal is consistent with the development objectives of the general plan, and the proposed uses and site development are compatible with adjacent uses. Staff recommends approval of CUP 20-08, subject to the development shall be in substantial conformance with the design review approval letter and the approved documents dated June 14th, 2020. This is just a kind of a cursory review of what they will be required to maintain on site. That concludes my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Lavelle. Commissioners, do we have questions? Okay, pardon me, the chair has a question. Since this is M1 light industrial, what is it about selling and servicing trailers that triggers the need for a conditional use permit?
So in the City of Glendale code, you have uses that are permitted outright, and then you have uses that are subject to conditions and uses that are subject to conditional use permit. I believe that the servicing and retail component may be more of a commercial activity as opposed to an industrial type activity. Mm-hmm.
I wondered what would trigger the need for a CUP on a light industrial property when the sales seems pretty benign. But commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Is the applicant or applicant's representative here this evening? Good evening, ma'am. Would you like to make a presentation? And if you would, state your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Abigail Ayala, and I work for the architect, Robert Kupacek. Address is 2233 East Thomas Road. And I'm here for if you have any questions regarding the project.
Okay.
Also, the owner is here for if you have any questions.
Hi, welcome. Do you have anything to add to the staff presentation?
No, it was all covered by Christina very well.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Very good. Well, thanks for coming in. With that, the chair will now open the public hearing for CUP 20-11, Northern Parkway Storage Conditional Use Permit. I have no speaker cards. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to speak on this item? Anyone here wishing to speak on this item? Hearing and seeing none, the chair now closes the public hearing on CUP 20-11. Commissioners, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve CUP 20-11 per the findings and subject to the stipulations contained in the staff report.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion for approval with the two stipulations in the staff report and a second for approval. The chair will now conduct a roll call vote, beginning on my far right. Commissioner Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Crow.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lennox.
Aye.
Commissioner Harper.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion has passed. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps in the process?
Chair, members of the commission, your action with respect to case number CUP 20-11 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you. Mr. Gruber, we have MGPA 20-01 and ZUN 1917. I'd like to conduct the hearing contiguous and then have, if we do vote, two separate votes. Is that okay?
Chair Hirsch, yes, that's fine, as long as
Okay,
there are two
great.
separate votes.
Okay, very good. Then the chair will ask staff to make their presentation on the next public hearing item, MGPA 20-01, Glen Lakes Major General Plan Amendment, and ZON 19-17, Glen Lakes Subdivision Rezoning Application.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Trevino at Glen Lakes is the title of this. and it is MGPA Major General Plan Amendment 20-01. And I'm going to present, as you suggested, the accompanying zoning case 19-17. There'll be two separate votes, but just for context, it probably makes more sense to do it this way.
Very good. Proceed then.
Okay, thank you. So the vicinity map shows the location of this property in relation to City Hall at Northern and 55th Avenue is what is located on the screen. So this is a major general plan amendment. It is from parks, open space, to medium-density residential, 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre, as identified on the general plan. There's also a zoning component to this. The property is currently zoned I-1 agricultural, and the request is to rezone this to R16, which is a single-family designation, and PRD is a planned residential development. So a couple of things that are unique to this case. Of course, we have the state statute that regulates how major general plans are required to be processed in the state of Arizona. And I won't read all of that, but it in essence says that you're required to hold 2 or more public hearings at different locations. You have had 2. This will be your 3rd public hearing. The first public hearing was here at the Civic Center. The second one was at the city's training facility, the Grip Stick. And so you're back here again this evening. So you have met that state statute requirement. In addition to that, Envision Glendale 2040, our general plan, has some other criteria that is consistent with that, but provides a little bit more detail. And that, as you know, requires that we consider the requests for these during March 1st and April 30th. And the reason for that is that the city and the state believes that it's best to look at all major general plan amendments at the same time, at the same public hearing. And so there's a time frame when we'll allow submittal of those. We didn't get any submittals this year. We only had the city's request and application. So we had no additional submittals, which is why you're just seeing one major general plan amendment case this evening. So also, as you know, there is a rather lengthy review process, and it's a 60-day review letter that is sent out to adjacent entities, cities, counties, and agencies throughout the state so that they can provide comment. And after that 60 days is up, then we are permitted to notice a public hearing with the Planning Commission. So those letters were sent out, in this case, on April 10th. So the review period ended on June 8th, and the notice was sent for the public hearings on June 7th. The City Council is required to hear major general plan amendments according to Envision Glendale 2040 between October 1st and December 31st. So I just wanted to give you a shot of the 60-day agency review. We do send these out in email, so it shows the letter that was sent, and I believe this is an example that was sent to the city of Peoria, but it shows that there's an attachment with a letter that is sent along with the submittal application information, which describes the property location and the actual general plan amendment being requested. I also wanted to share with you a little bit of history on this, and I know we've all seen this before. This is kind of what's led us to this place. There was a resolution passed by the City Council on December 11th, 2018, that actually gave the city manager direction to move forward on the sale and disposition of the property. So that's what has brought us to this plan for the property. So the general plan, again, does show this as parks open space, as you can see in the general plan designation there. The general plan existing and proposed is parks open space, POS, and the request is medium density residential 5 as denoted on the general plan, which does designate 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre. So this graphic, you've seen this before. This shows what is going on in the area and the level of density in the surrounding areas. Once again, showing the general plan, existing parks open space, and the existing zoning is A1 agricultural. Again, the request is for a medium-density residential with a PRD, which is planned residential development. As you see to the north of this, there's R4 zoning with 8 to 12 dwelling units to the acre. Just west of this has the same zoning classification, same general plan classification, MDR5, which is 3.5 to 5 dwelling units per acre. On the east side of this property, the general plan shows MDR 3.5, which is 2.5 to 3.5 dwelling units per acre. Again, further south and east of this is a higher density, high-density residential 20, which allows up to 20 dwelling units to the acre. And immediately across the street in Manistee Ranch, we have medium, high-density residential 8, which is 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. So this slide goes through the city parks that are existing and proposed in the area. And this shows a number of parks. There are 7 parks within a 1-mile area and varying sizes. This would be the largest park. This would be a 10-acre park with approximately 5 acres on the east and 5 acres on the west side of the proposed development. These slides are from the city's Parks Master Plan that currently exists. And just as a little snapshot, that neighborhood parks are the most important and the most used in the community. And this slide shows 76% of the population using those parks and trickling down a little less for the other regional parks. And really the reason for this is these are very close to neighborhoods. They're passive parks, so they get a lot of use if people are walking or just strolling along, which the next slide shows that these neighborhood parks, which is what's proposed here, range in size from extremely small, as you can see, 0.01 acres to 10 acres. So this would be one of the largest neighborhood parks in the city. And again, they're easily accessible by adjacent neighborhoods, and they're intended to be passive recreation activities, meaning these are not going to be programmed and inviting people from outside the area. It's really intended for the surrounding neighborhoods and the proposed development. So this slide shows some street view photos that have been taken. The first slide is going to be the northwest corner of the site in all directions. The second will be the northeast, then we'll go to the southeast and the southwest. So this is the northwest corner looking in all directions. This is the northeast corner looking in all directions, the southeast corner, and the southwest corner. So there has been a significant public involvement, and there was actually neighborhood open houses scheduled prior to this, but these were the actual ones that are specific to the case actually being brought before you. So there were open houses in December and in January. This hearing was initially scheduled in December, and then it was postponed when it was determined that we would process a major general plan amendment and that we would process it in accordance with the current general plan, which does designate a specific time that the commission could hear this based on the submittals and the 60-day requirement. So the findings in this case are that residential developments range in single-family to multifamily in PAD. So the residential that's being proposed is consistent with the surrounding areas. There's also commercial developments that will provide services for this residential development. Now, this does require general plan findings, and so we'll go through those first. Land use is one of the elements, And there is a traffic impact analysis that will be filed and updated to ensure that circulation is safe for the traveling public. There's also a housing element, and the determination is that this provides a new neighborhood that could encourage other investment in the area. There's also housing type and site plan proposed in the zoning planned residential development that will promote interaction between this neighborhood and the existing neighborhoods in the area. This also does provide community preservation and revitalization by providing an infill development that would enhance existing neighborhoods. In terms of economic vitality, this provides new development to revitalize a property that, as we said earlier, was costly to the city to maintain. There's also connectivity that's being provided in this development through a continuous walking path and public park that's being proposed. And regarding public facilities, we have received a letter of adequate school facilities on this development. And in terms of environmental sustainability, the city council and our management feels that it's important to encourage and emphasize new technologies, and we do encourage recharging devices for electric vehicles in each home. So that concludes the portion of the general plan specifically, and now I'm going to go into the actual zoning request. So again, this is A1 agricultural, requested to be rezoned to R16 PRD, which is a single-family residential planned residential development. And this is the zoning map that shows the area. Again, this is A1. This is agriculturally zoned. And again, the request is to rezone to residential. In this site plan, this shows the plan and with 173-acre single-family homes and the park space on the perimeter in the green area. So the PRD has some specific requirements. It does require that there be an entry theme and entry landscaping, so this is a depiction of that. It also requires that the housing products be produced so that the commission and the community are aware of what is being proposed specifically for the site. So I'll go through these housing products. So the agave, the baja, the oleander, the stella, the viola. So the PRD does have its own set of findings that are required for you to consider when you consider this case. So the proposal is consistent in substance and location with the development objectives of the general plan. It is also the opinion of the staff that the proposal is compatible with other existing and planned development in the area, as you saw most specifically pointed out by Manistee Ranch and the developments in the surrounding area, but most specifically because that is a planned area development. The proposal meets or exceeds the city's subdivision design expectations regarding the site planning, architecture, landscaping, building materials, and colors and screening of mechanical equipment. And that the proposal will result in a quality living environment and accommodate desired lifestyles. The proposed project amenities will include pedestrian trails, bike paths, landscaped areas, entry features, decorative theme walls, parks, playgrounds, and other public or commonly owned open space that are adequate and appropriate for this development. As we stated, the park will be a public park that is usable by this development and the surrounding neighborhoods. And the type and quality of house products will be consistent with the intended character of the development. So in summary, I wanted to just repeat that the City Council did pass a resolution that directed the closure and sale of the former Glen Lakes property, and that has led us to this request for a major general plan amendment for residential use and a neighborhood park, along with the zoning request for single-family planned residential development to establish new housing and a neighborhood park. So the recommendation for this action this evening, we have two agenda items, as we said earlier. Item 613 is for the Major General Plan Amendment, and the recommendation is to approve Major General Plan Amendment 20-1, subject to the following condition, and that would be conformance with the Trevino at Glen Lakes General Plan Map Amendment, MGPA 20-01, the booklet that was sent out on April 10th, 2020. And the second action for agenda item 6.4, to approve ZON 19-7, subject to the following condition, and that would be conformance with the Trevino at Glen Lakes General Plan Major Map Amendment, MGPA 20-01 booklet sent on April 10th, 2020, and the MGPA 20-01 combined with the R17 Planned Residential Development booklet dated June 5th, 2020. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, do we have questions for staff?
You can go first.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
I have a question in regards to the property along Northern Avenue. I know there's a parking lot with where the golf course offices were. What is to become of that? That doesn't seem to be part of the development.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Nowakowski. No, that is not, it's not part of this application. There are some various zoning classifications in that area. As you can see, there's CO, commercial office, and so that could develop into some type of commercial activity, but that is not part of the request this evening.
Right. The reason I was bringing that up is right down the street on Olive, we voted on a project which didn't have access to a major arterial street, Olive, and we voted it down, and later City Council was able to come up with an agreement with the landowners and figure out a better way to exit traffic instead through the neighborhood. So that's why I was saying, you know, we're doing a major plan amendment, why we didn't consider that parcel for, you know, access. So that's all.
I'm going to expand on Commissioner Nowakowski's remark about the access onto the arterial occurring at City Council. And quite frankly, gentlemen, I am confident that the reason the applicant made a change at the 11th hour was due to the actions of the Planning Commission in rejecting the application unless they provided that arterial access and would not, in fact, be on to 53rd Avenue and Barbara. So thank you, gentlemen, because I think we played a significant role in the outcome, a much better outcome on that particular piece of property. Commissioner Nowakowski.
I just got a question. Passive recreation. We weren't provided a site plan for this one, for this particular agenda item. But in looking at, remembering old pictures, it seemed more like the park space was going to double as a recreational basin, which is typical, but it was more being linear along 55th Avenue and 53rd. Hopefully I got my streets right. But was there any plans or consideration talks of just having a 10-acre park, not 2 5-acres, and have planned amenities like basketball courts, you know, splash pads, something like that, that really would be great for the neighborhood? Or, you know, was the reasoning that would attract more outside folks? Because I don't see, to get to one park, you have to walk all the way around how it's connected, right? So I don't see right through the neighborhood, any what I call it, to go cut through from one side to the other, you'd have to go on cement sidewalks and streets through the neighborhood. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Nowakowski. A couple of things, and I'd first like to address the access that, most of the neighborhoods in the area do access to lower level streets that then tie into Northern. So I think the intent there is to be consistent with some of the other residential developments, and I believe our traffic engineers would believe and agree that it's safer for the public to exit onto those streets, although I do understand what you're saying, but I believe that was taken into consideration. So regarding the park and having that on both sides, it really provides more access for all neighborhoods rather than just limiting it to those on the west side or the east side. And regarding the amenities that are in the park, there are numerous things that can be provided, but again, the focus of this is to be a neighborhood-level park where they are just providing space for surrounding neighborhoods and not encouraging people to come there from other neighborhoods and use their park spaces. So I think it's really intentional the way the park's been laid out.
Any additional questions, commissioners? Commissioner Crowe.
Yes, Director Collins, the exact number of dwelling units per acre is what?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Crowe, so density is based on gross acreage. So this is a little over 42 acres, so I believe it's just under 4 dwelling units per acre. So it's the gross land area, according to the general plan, that's the way things are calculated.
But if the developer is going to donate 10 acres of it to park, that's no longer part of their deal. They no longer have any development rights to that 10 acres. So the gross acreage now is reduced by 10 acres. Is that not correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Crowe, no, that is not the way that that it is calculated per the general plan and the zoning. This is a planned residential development, and the anticipation is that the land could be dedicated to the city as open space. So it is calculated on gross acreage per the application that's before you.
Thank you.
Let me, Commissioner Harper.
Go ahead if you want to. Okay, so I commend Commissioner Nowakowski. That blew right by me that front half facing Northern is not part of the project. So there is no entrance exit onto Northern, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Harper, that's correct. There is no direct access from
So
this.
the traffic is either going to go out onto 55th and come, it's the only way to get to Northern, or go north and go all the way to Olive. But is there traffic going into the east off of 53rd? Are there entrances or exits there?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Harper, yes, there is an entrance to the subdivision on the west of the subdivision and on the east side of the subdivision. And both of those, yes, could go to Northern to the south.
So basically, all traffic is going to be onto side streets, existing streets.
Correct.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on what Commissioner Crowe said. You say the 42 acres, but when the city shows it as a sell price, they use 36 acres. So I use a common denominator when I use numbers to figure things out. So that's kind of misleading in my mind to the residents, saying that we're going to do 4 houses per acre when we're going to use 42, but we're selling the acres at 180,000 when we're using 36 acres, which would be a total different number if we used
32
acres. Would be a total different number if we used 42. So to me, that's misleading the residents, saying, look, we're doing, the density is low, but we're getting this much per acre. So that's misleading. The other thing, Ms. Collins, can you bring up that document where it gave the approval for the city manager to sell the Glen Lakes?
Certainly.
Now, the question here is, was there any public hearings to discuss selling the Glen Lakes to the residents before this document was written?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, yes, I think as you'll see in there, there's notations of several meetings that were held and workshops in conjunction with this prior to that. I realize the resolution is small and maybe not completely legible, but if you like, I'm happy to read it aloud.
No, so the public had access to the information before this document was written?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, yes, they were in attendance, apparently, yes, there were workshops, which are public meetings. So the city council held workshops. I can't tell you who exactly attended those, but yes, there were public workshops on this and determinations made on the property, regarding the property.
Okay.
Mr. Collins, I have a request from Commissioner Crowe to read the resolution, and I'd also like to comment at this point, having attended I don't know how many workshops, council workshops, there is no public comment. They are public meetings. You can attend, you can sit and listen, but you can't participate. So just so the commissioners are clear that a workshop is not a public hearing or a public meeting in the sense that allows for public participation. You're allowed to attend but not speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you like me to read the whole thing? Or, so I'm happy to do that. So resolution number R18-189, a resolution of the Council of the City of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, authorizing the disposition and sale of city-owned property located at 5450 West Northern Avenue, Glendale, Arizona, 85301, of up to 44.66 acres. Whereas the Glen Lakes Municipal Course is a 44.66 acre, 9-hole executive length golf course located at 5450 West Northern Avenue, was opened in 1966 and was purchased by the City of Glendale in 1979. Whereas the demand for golf at Glen Lakes has decreased since 2005, whereas City Council workshops were held on October 23rd, 2018, November 13th, 2018, and November 27th, 2018, to discuss the condition of the course infrastructure and projected operating deficits public. Whereas on November 7th, 2018, the City of Glendale Building Safety Division declared both the Glen Lakes Golf Course Clubhouse and Maintenance Building unsafe to occupy. Whereas a council special workshop was held on November 19th, 2018, to hear public comment on the Glen Lakes Golf Course. Whereas on November 27, 2018, the City Council gave direction that the Glen Lakes Golf Course would close for disposition and sale following a temporary 90-day period of operation. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of Glendale as follows. Section 1, that the City Council hereby authorizes and directs the city manager to take all necessary and prudent steps to prepare for the disposition and sale of up to 44.66 acres of the city-owned property located at 5450 West Northern Avenue, Glendale, Arizona, 85301, following a temporary 90-day period of operation, passed, adopted, and approved by the Mayor and City Council of Glendale, Maricopa County, Arizona, this 11th day of December 2018, signed by the Mayor and the City Clerk.
Thank you, Director Collins. I appreciate your reading. Commissioners, additional questions? Commissioner Nyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Collins, you indicated that the address of the property is 5450 West Northern. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what's indicated here.
Previously, I thought I saw a map indicating the property does not front Northern. There is no frontage on Northern according to, unless I'm interpreting this correctly, there are parcels that front on Northern but are not included in this request. So if the council authorized the sale of 5450 West Northern, I'm now a little confused.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Nyberg. Yes, the golf course property does have frontage on Northern, and so I believe this says up to, and so that portion that the specific, the parking lot is in is not part of this, but that is the address of the entire piece of property. But this did not include the entire piece.
Thank you, that helps.
Commissioner Wilfong.
No, I was just scratching.
Okay. Commissioner Nowakowski.
Quick question. Trevino at Glen Lakes Development, will it be an HOA property?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Nowakowski, yes. Provided in your packet of information on this application, there are some draft CC&Rs, codes, covenants, and restrictions that indicate that, yes, there will be an HOA associated with this.
And will it be the city or will it be the HOA paying for the maintenance of the open space, park space?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Nowakowski, it will be, the city will be maintaining the park. It will be a public park.
Okie dokie.
Okay, any additional questions, commissioners? Okay, well, let me drill down a little bit on this park thing. Okay, we have two proposed linear parks, one on opposite sides of the property. Are they attached or contiguous in any way?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, they are attached on the northern end of the property, so there's a continuous loop around, and I can...
Okay, so we're talking about 10 acres contiguous park, not 2 5-acre, basically separate, completely separate.
Correct, correct. If you look at this, there's a walking path that continues along the northern edge of the property, so they connect to each other.
Okay, along the current townhouses there.
Correct.
All right, and the original sale document you read, or the authorization to sell, is roughly 44 something acres, of which approximately 2 acres are not affected by the general plan because they are already zoned as commercial or some other zoning. They're not A1, is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, actually, the corner, as it is denoted on this plan, the corner that's immediately on Northern is A1 because that was, that's part of the original Glen Lakes, and it was all zoned A1. So there will continue to be a piece of property that has that zoning classification on it. The ones to the east are commercial office, and then as you see in the graphic, there's a townhouse component as well on Northern Avenue.
So if there were to be any proposed development of the immediate southeast corner of 55th Avenue and Northern, that would require another general plan amendment to move it out of A1.
Mr. Chairman, yes, it would be, if there was a proposal to do something there, yes, and it would be a minor general plan amendment because it would be a relatively small piece of property.
Smaller parcel. Okay,
Yes,
but
that's
nevertheless,
correct.
it would require an amendment to the general plan.
That's
Okay,
correct.
so for now, the proposal is that acreage, be it roughly 2 acres on the corner, is just going to sit as it is until some further action is contemplated. Is that fair?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Now, going back to the 10 acres, all right. We have a net of approximately 42.8 acres. There like we're back online and the computers are up, so we're going to give it just a minute here, and then we'll resume our meeting. Looks like we've got everybody.
You're breaking up on me bad.
Okay, we're going to resume the meeting now, Vice Chair.
Okay.
Okay, folks, we'll resume our meeting after our power interrupted recess. And commissioners, do we have any additional questions for staff? Okay, Ms. Collins, I have some questions You answered my question about the 10-acre park, but I'm a little confused here about the housing density and the area of public space and so forth. So if the city currently owns this entire parcel, are they selling the 10 acres for proposed linear park to this developer? And then the developer is going to deed it back to the city, or is the city going to retain the 10 acres and develop the park?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my understanding that this 10-acre park will be developed by the developer, and they will be deeding the land to the city. I don't have the details of the sale. I'm not involved in that
Understood.
aspect
And that's
of this.
not an unusual practice. It's quite
Yes.
common, as I'm aware.
Thank you.
Okay. So my next question would be that if they deed back the 10 acres they develop part, that leaves 32.8 acres. What is the requirement for open space on the remaining 32.8 acres?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The open space requirement is for single family. There's really no specific open space requirement. And because this is being developed and the general plan is being amended for the entire property, this is classified in with the PRD. The planned residential development requires open space, either public or private, that could be deeded to the city. So the planned residential development allows for the open space to be developed by the developer and then deeded to the city for public open space. And so that's how they're accomplishing the majority of the open space. There is some additional internal open space in this project.
Okay, so the proposal is that the proposed 10 acres of new park that the city currently owns as open space park will be sold and then developed by the developer and then deeded back, and they're claiming that as their open space or park space. And so really they could build the 32.8 acres with little or no open space, if I understand you correctly.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. However, in these planned residential developments and planned area developments, which are more common, for example, Manistee Ranch to the south has that, part of the requirement is to provide an open space component. In this case, the open space is being shared with the rest of the neighborhood. So in some cases, it's not. It's private, but it's not, I guess I would say it's not being, the requirement and the amenity that's being provided is being attributed to the development and not requiring them to do twice the open space that would be required.
Okay, and they just have to get through plan review and the preliminary plot and all that.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. The next step in this process would be a preliminary plat through the Planning Commission and then a final plat
Okay,
to the City Council.
all right, thank you. Commissioners, any additional questions? Commissioner Wilfong.
Ms. Collins, speaking of the 10 acres, and the city assuming the cost of the 10 acres to maintain it. Now, I still need to know the reason why. Is it because the HOA fees would be so high to each resident that's why the city of Glendale opted to take the 10 acres back? there's got to be a cost behind this. Why is the city residents absorbing the cost for this park when it's in this development? So the only thing I can think of is that if they, it's a cost factor for the residents that are going to be in that development, that the HOA cost would probably be too high. And that's the only reason why the city of Glendale is probably absorbing that cost for the rest of the residents to eat. Is that the reason why this was done this way?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, I can't get into the details of that because I don't know. It was part of the purchase and sale agreement. However, I would just say that the request before us is land use, and so I'm not going to focus a lot on payments and those type of things. It's really not part of the request this evening, and beyond that, I really don't know the answer to that question.
I'm just trying to figure out why that little 10-acre deal happened, and the way I do my math is that it was going to add another $144 to the HOA fees per house, which on top of whatever the HOA fees were going to be consistent. So I'm assuming that if you have an outrageous HOA fee, that would be detrimental to trying to sell a house. So I'm just kind of like trying to figure out why that 10 acres happened the way it did. One other question I got right now is, can you bring up the pictures of the houses or the diagrams of the houses, please? Now, some of the things I'm looking at right now is, and I'm on another board, and some of the things are on the code is that it requires a 20-foot driveway. Now, this obviously doesn't have a 20-foot driveway. Why are we building a planned development area that's going to not even commit to the consistent with the code we have?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, I'm not sure where you're seeing that there's not a 20-foot driveway.
Well, I can see you're only going to get a length car in there. It's not even going to be a big truck compared to what your diagrams are, if that's what you're proposing. That looks more like a 15 or 18-foot driveway. It wouldn't even meet the current code as it stands right now.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Wilfong, so, in a planned area development or a planned residential development, there are allowable amended development standards. I don't believe that's one of them, and I don't believe that the driveways are short. We can look into that, but again, the housing product will be going through a separate review, so these are drawings to show you conceptually what the house products will look like, which is what is required within the planned residential development. It specifically says we need to show you elevations and materials, but it's not going to get into the details of the setbacks of the garages and things of that nature. However, when that's reviewed, those are the things that the staff reviews for. So I don't have any reason to believe that these setbacks will be substandard.
Just asking.
Excuse me, let the record reflect that Commissioner Harper has had to depart the meeting this evening due to emergency. So he will not be available for the rest of the meeting. We still have a quorum, so we will proceed. Any additional questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you all very much. With that, I think we'll open the public hearing for MGPA 20-01 and ZON 19-17. Again, we're doing the public hearing contiguous. If there is a vote, there will be two separate votes on these items. I have, I believe, 6 emails from individuals that were provided by staff and provided to every member of the Planning Commission. Email from Mark Burkhart, email from Natalie Petruna, I hope I pronounced that correctly, email from Sandra Monroe, correspondence from Phil Erickson, and 2 emails from Jane Bachman, one dated August 19th and one dated August 20th. And I want to sincerely thank all of you for your input and assure you that the commission was provided copies of your correspondence. Okay, we have maybe a half a dozen speaker cards here. The first is Ronald Fink. Mr. Fink, if you're here this evening, good evening. State your name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ronald Fink, and I live at 5213 West Echo Lane.
Okay, the floor is yours, sir. You have 5 minutes.
I'm sorry?
You have 5 minutes,
Okay.
sir.
First of all, thank you for the thoughtful questions you've been posing. I appreciate that. Anyway, it's my opinion that the decision was made years ago to stop maintaining the Glen Lakes so that when it had to be, when it had deteriorated enough, they could then close it because it was not enough people using it. The excuse then would be that it would cost too much to make the needed repairs and upgrades. As most people know, deferred maintenance is more costly than in the long run. We hear a lot these days about transparency in government, which in reality amounts to nothing less than lip service. If the city leaders cared about real transparency, they would have been more forthcoming with their decision at the time. In effect, we've decided to get rid of the golf course no matter how the community feels about it. It's easier to waste everybody's time putting on the dog and pony shows that they have put on for the past couple of years than it makes the affected citizens well, lost it. Anyway, to make them think that they really care when all they really hear about, or all they really hear is blah, blah, blah. Politicians, either when running for election or re-election, will say anything to accomplish their goal, but conveniently seem to forget of all of that once elected. What they're doing and have already done to Glen Lakes is truly unconscionable. Sadly, it appears that one of the first things politicians lose after being elected is their conscience and the ability to do the right thing. Now is the time for them to reverse the course and put whatever money and other resources are required to make Glen Lakes a place that the city and its citizens can be proud of once again. The only people who are proud of more developments are politicians and developers. That's not much to be proud of if it lowers the quality of life for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fink. Jane Bachman.
Jane Bachman of the Barrel District. Citizens have been at this for 2.5 years, and we've learned a lot along the way. That the process is very convoluted, and there are a lot of twists and turns. And I'm glad there were questions about the park, because the park layout is seems to have not. Time, this is what the park looked like about a year ago. It had a lot more amenities than it has now. In fact, what the park is nothing like a park. It's actually what you'd call a buffer for the HOA. It's a buffer similar to what you have on 59th around Marshall Ranch. It's retention basin property. The 10 acres is pretty much, it's 80% retention basin, and that's contained within the grassy areas and the granite areas. So essentially, when somebody asked what was the usable area, I guess you might say it would be 20%. this park at one time was going to have 2 tot lot playgrounds. It's been reduced to 1. I seem to have lost the mic off and on here. So what we have for a park here is 1 tot lot on 53rd Avenue, 8 benches, 2 of them shaded, couple of pet stations, concrete 10-foot trails throughout, and granite ground cover, and some lawn activity areas. This is not much of a recreation area for anybody. We think it will probably turn into just a dog walking area for the HOA. And talk about lending itself to communication between 2 neighborhoods. Actually, it'll be the haves and the have-nots. The people in their high-density living quarters, and then there'll be us in the surrounding areas with our spacious properties. We hesitate to think what will happen to us with the impact of a park. We don't think there'll be safety, and we don't think it'll be a positive thing for us. There is something I'd like to bring up about the process itself. We have questions about the zoning process, and for that reason, I asked Public Records for a copy of the application of the amendment and the rezoning of the Glen Lakes property. But the answer I got was, because the city was the applicant, no application was completed for submission to the city. However, I looked up a zoning application, which is 3.803, and it states, number 5, that the Planning Commission or the City Council should do this on its own motion at a public hearing. I don't see where this motion has been done, and perhaps the Planning Commission will look into it. It's a question, and it's a question, is the correct process being followed here? As a resident of my neighborhood next to Glen Lakes for the past almost 40 years, I was one of the original residents who went down to protest a development back in '79. 40 years later, I'm back at it again. I don't think I can do another round, though. So I stand firm in my conviction that I don't want our Glen Lakes Golf Course to go away. I'd like the commissioners to oppose both of these actions tonight. And while we still have a little time, I'd like to fill in a little bit of history that was brought up.
30 seconds, ma'am.
And that the intent of the city has been since 2017 to get rid of the golf course. They hired a consultant to tell them how to shut down the golf course systematically. That consultant today is now the turnaround vendor who takes care of Glen Lakes Golf Course. I think that's pretty interesting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Bachman. Kathy Wheeler. Hi, Ms. Wheeler. Name and address for the record, please.
Okay, Kathy Wheeler, 5335 West Purdue Avenue, Glendale, Barrel District, for 20 years. 173 homes planned for this development. Residents will have limited space between homes and limited backyards. The only open space that the kids are going to have will be the park or the street, but it's an HOA and the kids can't play on the street. I was under the assumption that the 10 acres, once you got the things put in, you had to be put in there, it actually would be probably 8.8 acres, which would be the accessible part for the park, and that would be it. So that's even smaller now, because whatever they're going to put in for water and this kind of stuff will be on slopes, so nobody can play with that, play on that. My question is, where is the non-traditional linear park? Is there open space for the 40-year-old neighborhood residents? Because there certainly isn't any space in this little 8.8 acres for any of the residents that have lived here for 40 years. I did hear about the walking trails that Ms. Bachman mentioned about. I don't know of any other amenities that are ever going to be there, but that wasn't what we discussed when we went to the very first meeting when this all started. Give us your input and we'll design plans for you and we'll choose what you want. Those were their words, and this is what we've got now. Traffic will be terrible on 53rd and 55th Avenue as both roads have speed bumps in place and the only access in and out of the park is there. There's no access into the development from Northern. Never has been, never will be. So we'll have plenty of traffic on 53rd and 55th Avenue. Glendale Elementary School is located at Butler and 55th Avenue, which is the middle of the neighborhood. The school buses travel on Butler and 55th Avenue to go to the school bus stop, which is on the west side of 55th Avenue and Butler. Children walk to school from various places, from Olive Down and from Northern up, and I don't know what on the east and west sides, how far they go out, because I'm not sure. Several crossing guards are at all the streets as cars are coming to the school from 4 different directions. Butler is the only street to get out of the neighborhood that has a red light, and it's already heavily traveled. This 40-year-old neighborhood has been trouble-free and homeless-free with a 50-year-old trees and a lake, open spaces, grass, and wildlife. Planning Commission, think if this was your 40-year-old neighborhood, what would you do? My hope is that you will recommend the entire parcel of Glen Lakes be kept under the land use designation of parks and open space. This is what Save Glen Lakes Golf Course community and the Glendale residents want. Thank you.
Stella Grazo.
Hi, Stella Griazzo, Ocotillo District. So I've been attending many of the meetings regarding Glen Lakes, and I've gone to a lot of the open houses they've had. A lot of them are very unorganized. One meeting that was at a school last year, I believe, was very well attended and very vocal. People were very vocal that night. The next meeting we had, we were reprimanded because we had a voice. And not one resident from day one is in favor of developing Glen Lakes into a development of homes. So I know you posted in the Glendale Star, and I'm sure you all remember my thoughts on that, my feelings. No one gets the Glendale Star. I hope you got your subscription fee back because you don't get the circulation any longer. The prices of these homes, what are the price ranges of these homes? Anyone? I asked last time and they didn't know. I still don't know what it is. And what are the HOA fees? Because in that area, it is a developed neighborhood. People have lived there for so many years. I don't know. Anybody know what the HOA fees are or the price ranges of these homes?
I don't.
Okay. And the home styles, I said before, I'm not crazy about them. So if we have this development, which I feel that it was already signed off on, that they're going to develop the land into homes. Then we have the built for rentals up on Olive. Now we have this wrecking and salvage on Friar up the street. More traffic. Everything I see is more traffic. If they sell, or they did sell the Glen Lakes Golf Course, why didn't they sell the clubhouse with it? Why was that excluded? So am I to look forward to that being now maybe Penny Arcade like you had in Glendale, or a tattoo parlor, or, I don't know, another drive-through where cars are gonna be jamming up the traffic more in Glendale to go through a drive-through for a coffee or a burger? I don't know. And again, like people mentioned, if the park was dedicated back to the city, how much is that gonna be to maintain? That doesn't make sense. So it's very sad what's happening, because downtown Glendale, right outside these doors, used to be a destination. Used to be all the antique stores that people will come down and enjoy going to, and some of the restaurants here. It's not that way anymore. And you're not doing anything to enhance this area, and it's very sad. Thank you.
Thank you. Rob Grubster, if I have that right.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Rob Goopser with Hilgart Wilson. Address is 2141 East Highland. I'm here on behalf of Homes by Town, which is, as you're aware, is currently under a purchase and sale agreement to acquire the property in question. I'm here to answer any questions that you have on the ultimate development plan. I would like to address a couple quick questions that I think I heard from the Planning Commission earlier, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Please.
The first question that I heard earlier from Planning Commissioner requesting information about the park and how we kind of came up with the linear park design. We were part of the kind of the initial outreach to the public. We were brought on board by Nathan Associates, who was hired by the city to be the broker for the property. We were directed to look at about 10 acres of a park site and come up with different configurations for that park. At that point, we came up with 4 different versions of kind of a different variations of parks. There was one that you would see today, which was more of the linear park with access and parks on both 53rd and 55th. There was another version that had more of a centralized node with narrow corridors coming in off of 53rd and 55th, so it was more of a centralized open space. The other versions that we had were more of a smaller nodes on each side with a centralized connection between, and then also 2 smaller nodes equaling 10 acres along the southern border, more of a buffer area for between the residential, future residential, and where the commercial is today. We had the opportunity to present this to the public late, I think it was probably summer of last year, if I recall correctly. We had each of the different configurations up on the board. We broke up into 4 different locations throughout the school that we were at, and we asked for feedback on the different configurations, what they would like to see, what type of amenities that they would like to have to be able to, be located within the park. What we heard resoundingly, outside of wanting to maintain the actual golf course, but what we did hear outside of that is they did not want to have a lot of traffic generating type of uses to come into the neighborhood. They were concerned about team sports, lighted ball fields, basketball courts. What they really were looking for, and it was more of a passive area, somewhere where you can just go out, you can walk the dog, you can take a walk around the trail, an area that you can sit, or maybe you can just go out and throw a ball or a frisbee with your kids. That's what we heard, and so that's what we ended up taking that linear park design and went back to the drawing board, and from there we were able to provide an individual lot layout internal to the site, and then providing the 2 linear parks along both 53rd and 55th. The way that we created the layout is we wanted to make sure that we limited the lots that actually back up to both 53rd and 55th. Because you don't really want to have that look where you have more of a corridor of homes backing up to a street. So what we did is we limited the number of homes that were backing up and had more of a side lot condition. So you have the park, then you have a street, then you have a side yard tract of landscaping, then you have the side yard of the actual, or the property wall of the home. That creates more open space, so you get an even greater visual impact of that open space that you would get with just the park itself. So we took a lot of, feedback that we heard, and we want to make sure that we allowed those residents that are living in that area today to still maintain the ability to have open space that they're looking at today and still maintain the ability to have open space corridors, again, along 53rd and 55th. So we were really cognizant of what we heard, and what we did is we were able to take that and build it into the plan that you see before you today. All told, you're looking at a little over 10 acres. One of the other pieces, too, that we heard from the linear park design is we wanted to make sure that there was a connection, not just through the subdivision itself, but a park separate that's, you don't have to walk on the sidewalks, it's more of the trail connection. And that's what we added along the northern boundary. That also provides a buffer, about a 30-foot buffer between the existing townhomes and the senior care facility up to the north as well. So they've got a view fence up there, so we wanted to make sure that there was still a nice corridor in that area for people to be able to connect between the two areas. So all told, there's about 2 acres of open space in terms of turfed areas for people to go out and throw the ball or walk your dog. There's amenities in terms of the walking trail, there's the seating areas, and then there's a tot lot facility with a small ramada over on 53rd Avenue. So with that, I would be happy to entertain any questions that you have on the development. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir.
I got a question real quick.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Kind of like, I've been looking at like the history of this on AZ Central here, and the original plan looked like it had like 96 to 110 houses in the original lot or parcel. Whatever happened with that plan?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I have seen that in AZ Central too. I was not aware of that when our firm was brought into the project. I don't know where that design actually came from.
Well, it seems like, that the 173 houses was put in place for, let's see, so it would bring an additional $2.5 million, or more dollars initially expected. So it sounds like, guys, something happened in the process that you allow us to build 173 houses, we're going to give you $2.5 million more. That's what it looks like what happened from the original plan. Now, that's what everybody's, upset about. I believe that if the lots were a lot larger and the density was a lot less, you wouldn't have this problem that we're having today. So obviously, the driving force behind this is money. They don't care about the residents, they care about the money. And to me, I can see where they're coming from, because I look at your initial plan where it's the 173 houses, you've got lots that are 40 feet, 45 feet wide and 115 feet long. We had how many developments like that so far? Are we going to turn the city of Glendale into this? So I understand.
I'm going to jump in, though, and say that if I understand correctly, sir, you are a consulting firm that works for the proposed developer. Is that
Mr. Chair, that is correct, yes.
Okay, so you're not the guy.
He's not the guy
doing this.
No,
Okay.
we were not privy to that initial layout that was in AZ Central.
Make that clear for the record.
That is correct, yes.
So
Thank you.
is there a recommendation that we could go to the 100 or propose that to limit the number of houses?
Well, that would be outside the scope here, because we're really voting on a major general plan amendment. We're not.
Yeah, but it's based on what we're seeing.
Well, we have an opportunity to vote,
Okay.
but we're really not in a position to redesign the project.
I understand.
Or do the zoning, Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, I'm out of speaker cards. Is there anyone else here this evening that would like to speak on this item? anyone else here that would like to speak on this item? You had your card, ma'am. We're going to move on. You had your 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Okay, hearing, seeing none at this point, then the chair is going to close the public hearing on MGPA 20-01 and ZON 19-17. Gentlemen, I'll entertain motions. We'll take the MGPA 20-01 first, and there will be 2 independent votes this evening on these items. Vice Chair Lennox, are you still with us?
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Okay, is there a motion on MGPA 20-01?
Mr. Chair?
Vice Chair Lennox.
I'd like to make a motion that we deny the request.
We have a motion for denial of MGPA 20-01. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and second for a denial of MGPA 20-01. Commissioners, discussion. Okay. Commissioner Crowe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I've been up and down on this particular motion. I mean, clearly the city has the legal resolution and the right to sell the property. So that, with me, that's a moot issue. They have the right to dispose of the property. But I have trouble with the streets dumping out onto the residential streets only, and I have some concerns about the density.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Crowe. Any additional comment? Okay, with that, the chair will now conduct a roll call vote, beginning on my far right, Commissioner Nyberg,
Aye.
and I being a motion to deny.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Crowe.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilfong. I beg your pardon, Vice Chair Lennox. Vice Chair Lennox.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
You forgot me.
Commissioner Wilfong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion for denial is passed. Mr. Gruber, next steps in the process.
Chair, members of the commission, your action with respect to case number MGPA 20-01 is not final. Your recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council for further consideration.
Thank you. We'll now move on to ZON 19-07. Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move to deny ZON. What was it again? I lost it.
Motion to deny ZON 19-17.
17, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second it.
We have a motion and a second for denial of ZON 19-17. Is there discussion prior to vote? Commissioner Crowe.
Same concern.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Wilfong?
If they are going to determine density and sell of a property, it should be used by the same number, not 2 different numbers. Not where they sold the acreage by 36 acres and then density by 42.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As a commissioner, I serve as an advisory role to the City Council. Our votes here reflect what we believe is the best interest of the community now and in the future. I was appointed to represent the Yucca District. I have Desert Mirage Golf Course. And when I talked to my neighbors about this vote, it was, what about our golf course? This could happen to us someday. And so that's why I am not convinced that this plan promotes a vision that reflects the expectations of the impacted residents or the public's interest as a whole. And I hope the city council is convicted by our discussion tonight and our voices that are raised tonight to do something to make this project better. If they are committed to passing this, improve it. You've done it before on items we've denied. And I am pleading with the city council to be convicted enough to make this project worthy of a general plan amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments,
Chairman?
commissioners?
I second what he said.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilfong. Well, I have some comments, and I'll try to be brief because the night's getting long, and they really apply. I held my fire on the MGPA, and now's my chance. So really, my thoughts apply to both of these applications. If this was a privately owned piece of property, and it had not been for the public enjoyment, and not a public park open space, be it a golf course or something else, I would probably feel a little bit differently, as I believe that private property, people have a right to develop and do things as long as it's not injurious to their neighbors. I'm with Commissioner Nowakowski, Commissioner Wilfong, in my conviction that this whole idea of, well, just losing this open space in this neighborhood, to me, is frankly just unconscionable. And, you know, I'm appointed as well, and I'm appointed to serve the city at large. And if this was privately owned property and just another housing development, I would be interested in maybe some tweaks and making a few changes here and there and trying to encourage the developer to work with the planning department to perfect a better product, as we've been able to do in the past. But this is a case where I can't get on board to support this. I happen to have lived and raised my family in this neighborhood. I'm not sentimentally attached to the golf course, although I have a lot of fond memories of it. But there is a very substantial consequence to this neighborhood by removing this open space. Now, I also serve on the city's bond committee, and we just finished months of exhaustive and very interesting work researching the upcoming bond issues that will be offered to the voters. And in that process, I learned that the city already has about $52 million of voter-authorized open space funding that's been available since 1992. And I keep hearing about how well we're doing and how great a job they're managing our finances and so forth. And, you know, I'm all for it because I was here when the times were really hard and the city was having a tough time making ends meet. And I'm glad we've worked through that, and I hope we continue to. But I just cannot support this application in any way. So with that, I'll call for a vote. Commissioner Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Crow.
Aye.
Vice Chair Lennox. Vice Chair Lennox, you're still with us.
Aye.
Commissioner.
Hello.
We got it. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Wilfong.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, emphatically aye. The motion passes. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps in the process?
Chair, members of the commission, your action with respect to case number ZON 19-17 is not final. Your recommendation will be forwarded to the City Council for further consideration.
I want to thank staff, their effort and their patience on this. It's been a long, drawn-out process. I think we had this is our third public hearing. We really made every opportunity to make sure the public had their chance to come in and address the commission, and I think you know that your voices were heard the previous meetings and again tonight. But thank you, staff. You know, you have a job to do, and you brought it forward, and you presented and you answered our questions thoroughly, and you know, I really appreciate the good job you did for us. So with that, we'll move on and ask if we have a staff report this evening.
No, Mr. Chairman, no staff report this evening. Thank you.
Do we have any other business to discuss?
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not.
Commissioner comments, suggestions?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to agree with your appraisal of the staff. Great job. Thank you very much. Diana, thank you for everything you've done for us.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it, and I know this was tough and arduous for you, this particular application. Okay, well, our next meeting of the Planning Commission, I believe, is scheduled for 6 p.m. on September the 3rd, and I presume that will be held here unless otherwise noticed. So with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lennox. The commission is now adjourned.